There's a lot of research out there, including Gary Keller, who came out at KW Mega Camp this past week that said, hey, we're 1.8 million transactions short of where we were last year. There's going to be more people fighting for less transactions. People are talking about 8% rates. There's a lot to discuss here. Byron, I want to kick it to you. What is your view of this optimism in the market? What is your view of where rates go? We can get into the economics, but I want to talk to the knowledge brokers out there. What should they be doing right now? And what should their mindset be?
Well, on our call this morning, on our accountability call, this is why you're kicking it to me, because I was very animated about the optimism. So BAM and 1000 Watt just did an agent sentiment survey. It was the beginning of July. And so agents were asked about the next 6 months if they were optimistic about their business. And overwhelmingly, they're very optimistic. Lisa made a great point on the call. Yeah, out of 1,000 agents that were surveyed, a lot of them were from the BAM eco or the 1000 Watt eco, where they're going to be more of a knowledge broker, like everybody listening here. And so their optimism is based in the reality of how they're operating their business. Okay, I get that a select 10%.
Here we go. I can already one changing.
The knowledge brokers I'm not worried about. What I'm worried about and makes me cringe is that there is this screaming from the mountaintops that you need to be optimistic about the business because then everything will just work out if you have this blind optimism about where the market is heading. Why? Because it helps me sell my real estate product to you. Because it helps me recruit people if I'm happy-go-lucky and I don't present fear into the agent community. I'm not presenting fear. I'm being realistic. I'm not going pessimistic just because I want to. I'm looking at the data. The market has crashed. Prices haven't crashed, but to Gary Keller's point, your transactions have crashed and are crashing. Okay, less people in the fourth quarter of 2023 are going to be able to afford to make a real estate transaction than there was in fourth quarter of 2022. That's just the truth. There's less opportunities out there. If we're faced with 8%, by the way, Zillow said if we hit over 8% on the 30-year fix, I'm not saying that that is going to happen. It's a possibility. It's more of a possibility now than what Mortgage Banker Association predicted us being at 5.9 by the end of fourth quarter. I think I would take the bet on 8 over 5.9. If that happens, they're talking about 3.3 million seasonally adjusted annualized transactions, not the 4 that we're sitting at. This is far, far from 5.8. And so I don't want to just go in there and be optimistic. Now, listen, I was trying to hedge against what I knew was going to happen in the fourth quarter of last year. I said, okay, I can see this. We're going to have a drop in transactions. We're going to have a significant decline. We had that. I went out and made a massive mistake with my business, and I over-indexed on grabbing online leads. This was a financial mistake. It was an operational mistake. It was also just kind of a good lesson on the reality of what happens in real estate is there's over 200 million. You're going to hear Tom talk about this, Tom Ferry Summit, but Tom's going to get up there and he's going to talk about this stat about 200 million online leads. You hear him talking about it online right now a little bit. He'll certainly talk about it in Dallas, and only 4 million transactions. So why in our market is it any different? I made the mistake of having the majority of the leads, and there's only going to be a certain amount of transactions. And so knowing what got me to this point in my career, knowing what's going to be critical going into 2024, I'm going to take that same level of investment. I'm not receding on my investment, but I'm going to put it in what I believe is going to be more actionable places, which is brand, where I can really break through on the less transactions. And so I'm preparing for what is to come. And that's my form of optimism. People hate it when you bring up any of these negative numbers or negative facts because they say, you're trying to induce fear in the market, Byron. You're being too negative. Be positive, be happy, be positive, Pete. That's not going to pay the bills in December. Telling you right now.
I think it ties in, though. I agree with everything that you said. And my point this morning when we were kind of chatting is that I think that there's 2 different, maybe even 3 different camps of agents out there, right? I think that there's the part-time agents that are just never really, truly going to be impacted because they don't need the money to live off of. That was always the interesting thing, even as the market started shifting. Those agents doing 1-2 deals a year, they're not dependent upon the income. It's not going to have any impact to them. I think The second camp is the one that filled out the 1,000-watt BAM survey, which is those that are operating at a higher level, those that are doing more than 10 units a year, those that are actually living off of the income that they generate, the full-time professional agents. Then the third camp is those that kind of fall somewhere in the middle. Kind of what we talked about this morning. I think the second camp, the ones that filled out the survey, I think that there should be some positivity there for the folks that are operating their business in the right way. I think that there is still opportunity. And I think that there is some stuff to be optimistic about. I think that there are smaller transactions. There is a big opportunity, like Gary Keller said, to take a bigger piece of the pie and increase market share using some of what you said through building brand and leveraging things that way. The area where folks should be worried are the ones that are not seeking out the knowledge, that are in that 5 to 10 unit year range where they depend upon the income. They need the income. I think their share is about to get smaller.